Let's talk about how a relatively innocent egg becomes a cardiovascular disaster in the form of a breakfast sandwich, particularly those fast food versions that millions of people consume daily. This is where understanding saturated fat accumulation becomes critical because the numbers are genuinely shocking. Start with one egg at 1.6 grams of saturated fat. Add a sausage patty, that's another 5 to 8 grams. Throw on a slice of cheese for 5 to 6 grams more. Cook everything in butter, adding 2 to 3 grams. Put it all on a buttered biscuit, which contributes another 2 to 3 grams. You're now sitting at 16 to 20 grams of saturated fat in one sandwich. For context, that's the entire daily recommended limit for someone on a 2,000-calorie diet consumed in one meal before 9 a.m. The fast food analysis is even more alarming. A McDonald's sausage McMuffin with egg provides essentially 100% of your daily saturated fat limit. A Burger King croissant sandwich with sausage is similar. These aren't occasional indulgences for many people, they're routine breakfast choices, consumed several times weekly or even daily. What makes this particularly insidious is the normalization of excessive saturated fat intake right at the start of the day. You've blown your entire daily allowance at breakfast, but you're still going to eat lunch and dinner. You're still going to have that afternoon snack. Unless you're eating completely fat-free for the rest of the day, which nobody does, you're consuming far more saturated fat than your cardiovascular system can handle long-term. The compounding effect is what really causes problems. This isn't about one breakfast sandwich on your birthday. It's about the cumulative impact of regularly exceeding saturated fat limits, which gradually builds arterial plaque and increases cardiovascular risk over months and years. Let's look at homemade, healthier alternatives because you don't have to give up breakfast sandwiches entirely. Use an egg white omelet as your protein base instead of a whole egg fried in butter. Choose Canadian bacon or turkey instead of sausage. You're dropping from 8 grams of saturated fat to about 1 gram. Skip the cheese or use a small amount of reduced fat cheese. Use mustard or mashed avocado for moisture instead of mayo. Put it all on whole grain bread instead of a buttered biscuit. Suddenly you've gone from 18 grams of saturated fat to maybe 3 or 4 grams, and you've still got a satisfying breakfast sandwich. Strategic modifications make a huge difference. If you must have the sausage, skip the cheese. If you want cheese, use egg whites and turkey. Don't combine all the high saturated fat ingredients in one meal. Being strategic about which elements you include makes breakfast sandwiches sustainable within a heart-healthy diet. I can provide comparison charts for popular breakfast sandwiches. Dunkin's sausage, egg and cheese on a croissant has about 15 grams saturated fat. Subway's bacon, egg and cheese on flatbread has around 6 grams, significantly better but still substantial. Homemade versions with egg whites, turkey, and vegetables on whole grain can be under 3 grams. The cumulative daily impact is what people miss. If you start with 18 grams at breakfast, then have a cheeseburger for lunch, another 10 grams, and chicken with butter sauce for dinner, 6 more grams, you're at 34 grams for the day, nearly double your limit. Do this regularly and you're actively building cardiovascular disease. These sandwiches are also typically paired with refined carbohydrates, white English muffins, biscuits, croissants, which further impact cardiovascular health through different mechanisms. You're getting a double hit: excessive saturated fat plus refined carbs that spike blood sugar. The convenience factor drives frequent consumption. These sandwiches are fast, available everywhere, and marketed as a reasonable breakfast choice. But they're quietly contributing to America's cardiovascular disease epidemic. The egg itself is almost irrelevant in this equation. It's everything else that's problematic. Here's what makes this particularly tragic. People think they're making okay choices. They know a donut would be bad, so they choose a breakfast sandwich with egg, thinking that's healthier. They don't realize they're consuming as much saturated fat as eating 3 tablespoons of butter straight. The solution isn't eliminating breakfast sandwiches, it's reimagining them with different components and preparation methods. Eggs can absolutely be part of a healthy breakfast sandwich. It's the sausage, bacon, cheese, butter, and refined bread that need to be replaced or dramatically reduced. Once you understand the saturated fat math, making these modifications becomes obvious and necessary.